6th of May. We're going to have a look around the seedlings and how everything's getting on in the back garden. And harvest time's begun for the lettuce, so I'll be picking some of that, but we'll have a look at all that in due course. We'll have a general look around the whole garden, and then I'll probably have a look at the allotment in the next video. So I've been up, had a look. A few casualties I've replaced, just a couple of onions and a couple of the brassicas. You know, the old leather jackets had a bit of field day with some of the younger ones, the smaller ones, but I managed to replace them. Fingers crossed they're alright. I had a few problems with the mole in the small red onion bed, but I've retreaded them back down, so fingers crossed they'll be alright. So we'll get on and we'll have a look around. I'll start off down at the bottom end of the garden where it gets sort of least amount of light. Sweet peas are finally sort of getting stuck in now. They were drying out, because obviously April was a really dry month, so I hope you can hear me okay, because it's going to get breezy up the garden. But the sweet peas are doing okay. Some strawberry plants there, can't remember the variety. They seem to be sort of doing alright now. I'll probably put the beans again along that back bit there. I've not sown any beans, which I'll probably sow in the next week or two. I don't know how many I'm going to do yet, because I've got quite a lot still in the freezer, so I'm not desperate for any yet. So I've got these little gaps, and too many plants for all the gaps I've got really, but it's kind of making up as I go along this year. So I've got some leftover sweet peas in the tray. Got some of these poly pots, just like leftover spuds. I've got two the Swifting. These are 20 litre bags these, so I think it's 2 Swift in each of them. And I've got 4 of another variety I've never grown before, a main crop called, I think it's Caledonian Rose. I've got some more of them up the garden as well. Then I've got 4 of the Sarpo Miras, which are from my own seed from last year. And the 2 pots at the back are Pentland Crowned. Obviously just one main crop potato in these poly pots, but there's 2 in them. So we'll move up to the polytunnel now. They're the first sowing of the Swift potatoes. I'll bring them out, otherwise they can get a little bit leggy if you spend too long in polytunnel. So they come out, get a bit of a blowabout, keeps the tops sort of steady, and you know they're not searching for the lights, they don't get leggy, so it's kind of working well. They're quite sturdy. Any rain they get a bit of natural steady watering rather than a big glug and then drying right out, because I've hardly watered them. I think I've watered them once since I put them in. Re-sowed some carrots in there. I think that one is just like a multicoloured carrot, which I've not done before. Just a pack of seeds I found, so I thought, well, I'll sow them in there. Kind of like really well sown and quite close together, so we'll see how they go. Went to the polytunnel now, so as you can see it's starting to get a bit crowded in here. Tomato plants, since I potted them on, only been probably 10-11 days ago, something like that. They've rocketed off, to be honest, so it'll not be long. Probably start seeing, don't know where you can make that out, but there's a little tiny bit of root poking through that hole there. So they've got roots down to the bottom of the pot. So I think I said in the last video that they don't take long. Once they get them roots down, they're off. You know, the suckers are starting, and I should imagine, yeah, the first sort of, well, you can see it there, the first flower buds are appearing. So I'll probably say within the next sort of 10 to 14 days they'll be ready to go in their position. So that means they're a right good clear out in here. That's all leftover stuff from when I planted the allotment up. The brassicas, I've got some, the Clapton, Primo 2, a few other bits and bobs in there. These are the tomatoes that are in different composts. I'll have a quick look at these. 3 of them are doing pretty well. The one in my own is doing alright, but the one that had the young plant compost is still lagging behind, even though they were all in that before they got potted on. But these ones that are just, you know, they've come on fine, these, and the deep ones, the sub-arc planting, I remember out it was of container compost. They look really healthy and they're proper sturdy. They are, you know, they're in big deep pots. But all these, I should imagine they'll be okay once they go in these beds. I've had a bit of a tidy out in these beds and soaked them up. They need sort of, not treading down, but they need firming down because they're quite spongy, and I'm just a bit worried I'm drying out a bit quick. Top end, got some pots of leeks. I thinned one of them out, which was the Musselberry one, because I did do them in both different composts. I think one was a reserve multi-purpose or a good home multi-purpose, and the other one was like a sowing and cutting compost by Verve. No difference between the two, they're both perfectly fine. Celery's finally got going now. I think that's in my own compost. It's a bit slow going, but now I've had a bit of heat and I've given them a right good drink. They've sort of like got the roots down and they're getting on with it now. The Swift that I sowed in probably a couple of videos ago, that is a second sowing, because the whole lot of the first batch, they just failed. You know, so I just got a pack of seed from a different supplier, and pretty much there's only 2 that haven't fired out of 30. So it's just, you know, you just got to be careful. So, you know, there are some bad seed about. These, whether I'll grow full term, these are aubergines. They're like a long, thin one. I did aubergine years ago. Really, they need the heat, you know, to do well. So I'll probably just put them in a pot somewhere and see. It's more for misses, really, you know. But you've got to try these things out. Peppers, mixed, you know. Well, these are all like chilies. I've got the jalapeno, basket of fire, cayenne, apache, and I think that's tarquino at the end, which is more of a pepper, the tarquino. But very sort of hit and miss in size-wise. Not sure why. But peppers are like that sometimes. They just do nothing and all of a sudden they go for it. Bell peppers, I've potted these on, then 4 at the back I've topped them. Sometimes I don't bother topping, but I thought this year I'll top them. These have been potted on, and I've put these in the New Horizon veg compost, which they'll be growing full term in. See how they get on. They should do okay, because I did prefer that compost from last year and the comparison. Other seedlings, the cucumbers, some of them are really slow to get going. I might have to put a bit of a fleece over these things. It's quite hot in here at the moment. It's 25 degrees at the moment in here. So, but I can feel the sun beating on me. Even though I've got this netting over the top, it does shade them a bit, but the sun's in and out today. And this is the snow baby. That's all that germinates. I can't remember how many I sowed now, whether it was 25 or was it 20. So I've got 6 I haven't fired. So, but you know, like I say, these are just like a bonus sort of gap fillers. Down the bottom there we have the leftover onions, which if I've got space, really, I'd like to put them in. I don't like throwing sort of the seedlings away, so I've got a little tiny row. I mean, what is it there? There's 37 onions there. You know, it's still a good amount of onions. It's a couple of strings anyway. And then there we've got the Brussels sprouts, which are pricked out. They're going to go outside in a bit just to get a bit of blowing out. They have been outside most of the time, really. Just when we had a right downpour, I brought them in. And we've got some other stuff I've sown under there. I've got some more spring onions, some more rocket, some more leeks, which I don't know if I'm going to grow full term. Whether I'm just an idea with them, so I'll see how that one goes. And then one at the end, just this end one here, has got some romaine and the Grenoble red. Because even though I've not started harvesting that, once you start harvesting it, it could take probably 4 or 5 weeks before they're big enough to transplant, and then you need a good couple of weeks, 3 weeks before they get big enough to start picking. So there'll be a little gap, unless if I can put them in a different bed. So if I've got seedlings ready, great. I did sow some the other week, but they were really patchy. You know, they got a bit warm, so they're a bit patchy. These are remain, the ones there, Grenoble red. So we'll just see how they go. So I've just sown a fresh batch over there. A bit further down the garden. So these are the Musselberry Leeks that I've pricked out one of the pots. Put in one of these poly pots, so I'll try that. Nice and deep, space them out. So it gives them a bit more time in here, you know, so they can have probably at least another month in here if need be. Until the gap comes available. Got a few ideas. These potatoes, these are the ones that are in the different composts. There's one that's really trumping, that one there. That's the, I think it's a Western multi-purpose. But it's, like I say, you know, they're all growing, you know, inevitably they'll probably all catch up. I've not watered them, but my own is starting to come, you know, but they're all slightly different in some ways, but you know, my own's kind of keeping up with the like you said, New Horizon all veg compost. It's kind of similar, you know, but the results are in the harvest really. You don't have to go off the top. I mean, that could all end up being all top, you know, and not much going on down below, or it's just got a lot more chits on the potato that have grown. So it's all in the harvest, that's the result. Ignore the top. It's a bit like a carrot really. Whatever you've got on the top, don't take for granted it's got a massive root on it. These are just some mustards that I've sown. They've gone massive. They've only been in these trays a couple of weeks. They've gone massive, so I need to start picking them. They look a bit like pak choy to me. It was in like an oriental mix, so if pak choy grows okay, it used to be a nightmare for slugs that, but because that frame's made of copper and slugs don't like copper apparently, if I can do pak choy in that sort of system, then that's it's an idea to sort of, you know, keep looking into. Some giant sunflowers some more at the top there. They're getting blown about, but I don't mind them getting blown about, you know, as long as it's not gale force wind, because they need to sturdy up. Rather than keep growing tall and leggy in a nice kind polytunnel, they need to start getting that, you know, that trunk a bit firmer here. Just in here there's some, I think, petunias and lobelia, really slow going. Just a bit coriander in a pot. Some strawberries, they were the runners from last year. So a load of them died off suddenly, I don't know why, but they survived, so I put them in bigger pots. I was hoping to get them down to allotment, you see, but I'll have to just sit it out here until I run some more off and sort of bed out up at the plot for strawberries. That's just a bit of an idea. We'll see what happens with that, I'll keep you posted with that. Just a way of trying to get some clean lettuce, especially the iceberg lettuce, which are in between. Put some rocket in between as well. But just if it, you know, because slugs do like iceberg, and there's now worse than cutting into a crispy heart and it's got a slug in it. Gooseberry bushes, I rummage them out from the top end of the garden, clean the pots out. I need to find a permanent home for them. They've been meaning to go in the ground for about 10 years, but it's just they're a twig and they're just growing in the pots. And we come up to this area. In this bed, we've got down the middle, we've got a row of iceberg. I lost one to slugs the first night it rained, so I had some left over, so I put one back in. And there's 2 rows that remain, remain on each end, and then a centre row of iceberg. And in between these rows, in that gap, is where I intend to put the 2 rows of Brussels sprouts. Now I can only get probably 14 Brussels sprout plants in there at a squeeze. So I might end up putting some at the allotment or just keeping to the 14. But I've got 20 to go at. Now this is where the lettuces started to really chonk on. Apart from 2 that had a little bit of stem rot from rocking off in the wind a little bit, but they've sort of, like, you know, pulled all dead leaf off, and they've started to grow again, so I'll leave them be. They'll catch up along the way. Because once you start picking this stuff, you get an abundance of it. Mazio's actually rooted in now, that's starting to grow. The red salad ball, I'll say I'll lift these nets after anyway, and you can have a look. At the back here, I've never grown these before, these Valen. They're a nice little lettuce to look at, to be honest. I don't know what it tastes like, mainly for Kane to eat, but you know, I'll be having some, because it's that sort of season now. We'll start chunking down the salads. There's the Durham early greens over there. Leaves are looking a bit floppy, so they might need a bit of water. I wouldn't have thought so, to be honest. Many years ago I did have cabbage root fly, but that was before I started using the nets, so fingers crossed I ain't got anything like that, but we'll play on by ear. Sort of clean that bed out over there, put some flags on edge because the old plank had rotted away. Don't know what I'm going to put. It's not a great growing place, that. It's quite shaded, and if I could put lettuce in there, but it's just a nightmare for slugs and snails in there because they come from next door. I need to have a right good sort out in the cucumber house, because it's just got old pots, old tomato plants. They're just going to all go in the compost bin, because I don't need them. And as far as I know, everyone that I know has managed to you know, they've got theirs, so seems a shame, but I've nowhere for them. But I picked out sort of what I needed, but it's surprising, just absolute neglect. And I could prick them out, put them in a pot, and they'd fire off, they'd be fine. You know, they'd soon catch up. The big carrot boxes had a few misfires. I had one that, you know, a snail or something's eaten, but they were getting ready, some of these other ones, to thin down to one. That variety is called long red intermediate. A bit patchy, a few weeds in there, so I filled in the gaps, but the slugs had just annihilated them. You know, it's just the way it goes. So I put a few slug pellets in there, and they seem to be sort of coming along. Not be long in that first batch of radish there, I'll be ready. Another probably 2 weeks now. I've had some rain. These are just called the onions, a varieties exhibition. Never grown them before. They're tickling away. They're not massive, but they're doing all right. Under that net there is some collard greens. I can't remember the name I found. It's not Vates greens, I don't think. But I don't know. If I can find the seed packet, I'll put it in the description. They were just an afterthought. Really, they're a bit in my way there now, but they're not intended to grow full term. These are just a quick gap filler. And as soon as I need the space, I'll take them, because it's just Kane's food. And down here we've got some rocket. I think this was these first ones are the armaters, and the other ones are from, I think it's Frankie seeds. Bit of leaf droop with some dit in them, but they're going to get a right good cull back today, you know. And that first cut always seems a little bit brutal, where they go down small. You know, you kind of just leave a few leaves in the middle, but because they've got quite a big root system on them, they soon start growing back, and they just keep picking the flower spikes off, because rocket will rocket to seed. Have a look at the sweet candle box down here. Same in that, a few misfires, but I've resown. You know, and there's the odd one that just, it's like that, they're just getting nobbled off, rotted off. I don't know why. So I'll put a couple more seeds in that one. Just see. As I say, that's old sand, that, and it's second-hand soil, so there could be anything in it. I don't know. And down here we've got these are Caledonian rose, 2 per pot. Usually I do King Edwards, and the last year I did Pentland Crown, so I've never heard this variety before, so I thought I'll give it a whirl. It's supposed to be like a pinkish sort of skin, white potato, good all-rounder. Because all-rounders are better for me, to be honest, because I like chips and roasts and jackets and stuff like that. So an all-rounder is like a good multi-purpose one. Because I'm not a big fan of the actual South Palmyras, to be honest. I always found it a little bit hard. But I'm growing some down there, mainly for some seed potatoes, should I want to grow some next year. But we'll just see on that one. Next year's another year. We'll get through this year first and go from there. Right, so I'll get my stuff and we'll start doing a bit of harvesting. Right, I'll get these nets lifted up and do a bit of harvest, because looks like the old rain's going to come any time now, which is kind of typical. I thought I'd been waiting for the chance to harvest these and try and get it on video as well. When the rains want to come, but rain or shine, we'll get on with it. Just seems a shame, you know, because these I'm not growing these as cut and come again. These are just getting lopped out. But what I'll probably do, I'll probably take this end here that's nearest to cabbage, because I think if slugs are around, they're going to hide under the cabbage and come out and affect the lettuce. So I'll just take 4 up, because it's only a couple of days' food for Kane. But really nice. Not massive, but nice and clean. A little compact. A bit like a little gem, I guess. But yeah, the variety's called Valen. No slugs, that's always a bonus. I'll leave the root in for now, won't cause any harm. Because I might put my celery here. While the net's up, it's a bit of an opportunity to weed. I'm not going to let these greens get too big either. So it's just caged food, because in the summertime he's out grazing most of the time, so greens he kind of turns his nose up sometimes. But that's the veiling. You know, it's a nice little lettuce. Smells very green, but sure it'll taste fine. Kane won't mind anyway. But it's just it's easy to try and weed as you go. You know, you've got the opportunity. You can't hoe when it's weather like this because you know they won't dry out. Bits of tea bags. These are just topped with my own compost. No real weeds under there because obviously there'd be the odd one, but the canopy's quite dense on that now. So it doesn't take long to go through these lettuce once I start feeding them to Kane. But because there's a brassica at that end, I'm going to get this net back down because I have been seeing a few cabbage whites these last few days, and I don't want them getting in there. This net's quite a nice tight snug fit, to be honest. Just making sure when you put the net over, try and encourage the foliage up like that. Otherwise, you bend the leaf over, the slug will sniff it out. It is quite tight around the sides, this netting, so I'm not too concerned. And so far under this net there's been no slug damage. It was the first bed I planted up. But I'm all for growing varieties of stuff that slugs aren't a fan of. Make sure that's down nice and snug. Probably put a peg there later on. Right, we'll get on with doing this. Now, this is a bit of a long-winded process, so I'll probably speed it up or not film it all, just bits of it, but it's pretty much... The rocket, I'll probably just either pick the tops or just cut it all up and cut it off with some scissors. But with these, it's just a case of feeling your way around, sort of twisting the outer leaves off. And don't be frightened of, you know, throwing a few away if they've been close to the soil and they're not looking the best. Discard them few, because obviously as it grows it'll get further away from the ground and a lot cleaner. You know, and they will just sort of like fumble apart. You know, it's pick them down. I could take another leaf off that, but I'm not going to. And that leaf will flop down, but you know, give it a day or so, and it'll just start to sort of form a full lettuce again. It is a great way if you know if you're just having lettuce, you want lettuce leaf, instead of keep sowing, just sow like 2 batches and just continuously pick. You know, if you plant the beds about, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks apart, you'll have a pretty good continuous crop. You don't need many. You know, but unless if you've got something that eats lettuce, so anything I don't want, Kane will gladly consume. We'll get on with doing these. You pick them all the same. You know, just generally sort of a downward sort of twist, and they come away from the main stem. You know, and the important thing is try and submerge whatever you picked off, submerge them in some water for 5-10 minutes as soon as you can, and then drain them off. I use a spinner, or well, I spin them around in a net. I've got a video on last year, I think, of how I do it all in the videos last year. It showed me spinning a net around like a crazy man. When you're doing it in bulk, it's a lot easier. You end up sort of picking roughly once every sort of 1 to 2 weeks. But this first initial pick is better done a little bit earlier than this, because you end up getting a bit overrun with it. But I'll have salad for every meal when it's in our season like this. It just makes sense, you know. You just change your diet to whatever's in season. I mean, just for what I've got in there, you probably pay about £4 for. It's all been bagged up nicely for you. The thing is, most of it's never seen any soil. You buy fruit shops, it's always grown in big flotation plants. Like polystyrene boats floating around on liquid feed. God knows what's in them. And then what you don't eat, compost, which goes back into your beds. So there is no true waste. Looks like plenty of lettuce anyway. Try and get a good pick before slugs come in, because now we're having that sunshine and rain. Slugs will be loving it. I'll get it all picked and we'll have a look at the end what I managed to get from everything. And then I'm going to try and get it all in the fridge. Right, that's it all harvested and washed. I've spun it round in the net, so if you like to see how I do that, if I can think on, I'll put a link in the description below. A video from last year where I do something. It kind of shows how I prepare everything for going in the fridge and cleaning it all. Because using a little lettuce spin is fine, but it could just take a while. So I use a fishing net. It's never been used for fishing, but if you don't mind, just wash them. It's fine. I just wash it all. And just basically put it all in the net and spin it round. So you look a bit daft doing it, but it's just it's a quick way to get rid of a lot of excess water. Because if you bag it up and it's full of water in the bags, inevitably it'll start to rot off. So it's sort of like when you bag it up, I just put it in zip seal bags. Just check for any sort of leaves that are looking a bit, brown here and there, because they will, obviously go off. So they'll be fine to eat. If you've got little flecks of brown on, just eat and get rid of them. Unless you've got animals, just let them eat them. So this is the Grenoble red, and then we've got the red salad bowl, rocket. At the end here, this is that Valen lettuce. Love a little cost lettuce, quite like that. Quite happy about that. And then I even picked some baby beetroot leaves. So I'm growing some beetroot in the back garden just strictly for its leaves, just to make like a mixed salad, because just a big pile of that can get a bit boring. So it's nice to just add a bit of colour, different things in it. Some of the ornamental mustards and stuff, and pak choy, and whatever these are, I don't know what it says. It's just an oriental mix or something like that. So it's just a nice addition. You could stir fry some of them. but I'll just chop up a mixed bean salad. I just have to check then, you know, certain things of these, if I want to give them to Kane, I just need to check that they're safe for him to eat. This is like I have to do with my tortoise. Anything that he eats, I have to check it's safe for him to do so first. Simple things like iceberg don't do him any good. So he's okay with this, but better off, you know, as a romaine type of lettuce. The more green, the better, really. You know, buy romaine heart and it's quite white, but they'll be good for him because they're nice and green. And I'm going to try one myself for tea tonight, I think, and see what they're like. They're nice tasting, and they do all right. They prefer cold seasons, so they're a good late or an early one to try. You know, I mean, I saw them fairly early-ish, you know, March or something like that, and we're only just at the start of May. Well, first week of May, and I'm cropping them. So not massive, but you could do a nice bed of them and get them eaten, and then put things in like, you know, parsnips, things like that. You know, your leeks that go in, you know, sort of May, June into ground or sweet corn. So I'm quite happy with that. First overall crop for the first week of May, and it'll probably be, you know, weekly or 2 weekly now. I'll expect this kind of volume, you know, for the foreseeable sort of couple of months anyway, you know, until I get some, you know, new plants planted out. So on that note, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be an allotment update from down at the plot, see how things are going on there, and regarding, you know, deciding what I'm doing with the raised bed. So till then, take care, see you now, bye-bye.